This is Duke University.
But when I mention the museum, you can see that. And when I mention downtown, you can see that. But to me, the things that in a way I am proudest of that have sprouted up at this university are things you can't physically go visit. And they typically have to do with educational programs or ways we have tried to open doors inside the minds of our students. Hardy mentioned one that has now already become famous, though it's only about 5 years old. This is the program called DukeEngage that was endowed by Melinda Gates and by the Duke Endowment in Charlotte. The premise of DukeEngage is if you will find some place in the world that will enable you to escape from the bubble of young, successful people in which our students have always lived, go find somewhere where you'll see what the conditions of life are like for men and women in a place where those conditions are seriously challenging. Go find a place where there is some problem that can't be solved by mere humanitarianism, but needs some form of mental expertise to solve it. Go to such a place and see whether the things you learned in your classroom at Duke can be reused such that you can help them to solve real problems in the world, and Duke will send you there. We have sent 400 students a year for each of the last 5 years at our expense to health sites, environment sites, education sites throughout this country and through about 50 countries around the world. Last summer, I went to Tanzania on the shores, on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. I went to, have you ever been to Tanzania? They don't only have unpaved roads, it's like they designed special ruts in the road. And so you bounce your way and bounce your way and bounce your way. And finally, after about a 5-mile drive that took about an hour, you come to a health commissary. And here was this place, it had lots of medical equipment and none of it had worked for years. It broke and no one knew how to fix it. And also on site were 2 Duke undergraduates who were spending the summer residing there, living in a house with no hot water and no electricity, but they were having the time of their lives, and their project was to see, can they take the things they learned in engineering courses, and can they use that engineering knowledge to fix these machines, and then teach people how to fix them themselves the next time they break, so that people can have the benefit of this knowledge. This is the idea of DukeEngage. Take people out, help them see whether, you don't take classes so you can get good grades in classes. You take classes so that that knowledge is available to you in later life in the real world to help become a contribution to solving the challenges of the world. I learned a phrase from our former Dean of Engineering: discovering the use of knowledge is education. D-U-K-E. And in a way, it's all very well for schools to give their students knowledge, but what we're trying to do is to create the conditions in which students can discover the use of knowledge, the way knowledge can be put to use to make things happen in the world. I've mentioned an example that requires engineering skills in Africa. I could give you many others, but one thing I'll tell you is, in pretty much every kind of capacity that requires intelligence and imagination, we have students crossing over from classroom settings to real-world settings to see the extra things you learn that way. We have a program, Duke in New York. Students who have studied economics here go to New York and continue the study of finance, but part of it takes place in actual finance settings where you're given actual problems that are being analyzed in real time, where you get to figure out how much your education has equipped you to do that analysis or what else you need to learn. Hardy mentioned our program in entrepreneurship, which, nowadays about 1 out of every 10 students at Duke has the hankering to start a business, and they will ask you to become their angel investor if you walk around this campus and make eye contact with people. But one thing I'll tell you is that now, in addition to Duke in New York, which is an economics program, we're about to have a program called Duke in Silicon Valley, where people who've taken all their academic courses at Duke can go live in the world of entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs out there, and then come back here and see what that taught them, see what else they need to know. I can mention that this very week we opened an office, Duke's first office in Washington, D.C., and so now we have all the students who major in public policy here, that's about 1/10 of our students, do an internship in the public sector, again, crossing back and forth. You see the point I'm trying to make about this is that Wonderful as it is to add buildings to your campus, the most serious building any university does is building the shape of education, building the process of education that we invite students into.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.